Okay, so this is meant to be the preface to Sage Gourmand OTR. It's been a while since I've done this on a regular basis, and I've made a few recordings here and there over the last few years, but it's really been more of an exploratory period for me, observational, just watching everything around me. Even while I'm recording, it's just how I live. I'm constantly trying to observe, pay attention, note everything that I see. So I'm sitting in the parking lot of our apartment complex. It's the only place that I have that at this point the privacy to sit and focus and make a recording. So this is not really intended to be permanent, but if this is what I have to do to make this happen, then so be it. I have been dragging my feet on this now for several months, and I always find a reason to procrastinate. That's just part of human nature for one, but specifically mine. I am prone to procrastination. If I can put it off, I will. If I can find an excuse not to do it, if I'm not 100% sure, then I can always find a way to defer it to later. And I've kicked around the idea of just trying to set up a space in the apartment. I considered going to the clubhouse. I considered doing this outside. I even did a test run outside this morning. But it is excessively windy today. We're under a gale warning for the coast here. The flag here at the complex is sticking straight out to the side with the wind, and the palm trees are blowing around like crazy. We're supposed to get gusts up to 40 miles an hour, so wasn't really conducive to sit outside and try to record. One, it's slightly uncomfortable because it's not super warm, and two, there's the sound interferes with what I'm trying to do. But anyway, the first step's always the hardest, and this is it. This is the first step for me, and it took me months to have the courage to take it. A lot of it is fear. What do I want to do with this? Where do I want to take it? And do I have an expectation? Do I have an end desired outcome for all of this? And the answer for that is no. And that's a hard fact to grasp a hold of when you're trying to progress, when you're trying to advance, when you're trying to make a difference in your life, reach your potential, all those things that we all strive to do, and we all look to see what somebody else is doing to maybe give us a hint or a clue as to what we can do to pursue that passion, follow those dreams, make a difference in your life. And I don't know what kind of difference you may want to make in your life. All I know is what I want. And after several years of contemplating, reassessing the whole Sage Gourmand concept, I've decided that it still encompasses what I want to do. And it didn't really work out the way I planned when I started it. I came up with this concept, this philosophy, this approach to life years ago. I started making recordings and have a couple of YouTube channels already that were more of a journal. If you go back and you look at any of those, they're almost always marked just with a date or a status or status update or status plus. I originally wanted them to be obscure, hard to find. I didn't want people to just stumble across them. It was part of this thing with me that I could make something that I believed had value and put it out there for free. And once it goes out, once it's out on the web, it's there. It's accessible by anybody. And it was kind of just this flirting around with it where I just put it out there. There's nothing enticing or provocative about the titles of any of those videos. Like I said, it was more of a journal, and it documented that period in my life, which was a huge transitional period. I made a decision 11 years ago now, almost coming up on almost the anniversary of 11 years, that I decided I wanted to make some changes in my life, and I wanted a better life for myself and for my family. And I set out with that mindset and the skills that I had and my understanding of creating your own reality. And it was experimental, I guess. I mean, it was all theory. It was stuff that I had come up with, philosophies that I had developed, and I was like, will this work? Can this work? And it did. It was, for me, it was 100% successful. I was able to change my life around completely. I was able to create a lifestyle and a way of living day to day that changed my life forever. It really enhanced my quality of life. And I wanted to share that. I thought that there was value in that. I was trying to build something that a foundation that I could build something else out of. And I took it right up to the point where I thought I was going to be making this transition from what I was to what I could be. And it didn't work out. Not the way I planned anyway. I mean, but sometimes what we have planned isn't necessarily what's best for us. I do truly believe that we enter into this life with a preset set of goals or tasks that we want to accomplish. And this life plan, which is not unique to me or my philosophy, it's common, it's out there, that you come in with this life plan and there's certain things that you want to achieve, and everything inside of you that drives you is part of that. So the things that you're attracted to, the things that you were drawn to, your aspirations, your ambitions, they're all tied to that. But it's very easy to get lost. Humanity is confusing. It is. And I have struggled with it for my entire life. And I just turned 50 in October. And 3 years ago, everything just hit a wall. And I said, fuck it, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. It didn't come out the way I wanted. And I blamed everybody but myself. And part of it was I just didn't have a clear focus of what it was that I wanted. I just had a general idea of a theory, and I was living my life by that, and I was trying to create a marketable product to be able to sell, to provide resources for myself and the rest of our lives. And I felt like I did a really good job of getting to that point. And I don't know where I lost control of it. If it was just a lack of focus, a lack of like a detail, what it was that I hoped as an end result. I had a generalized idea. I want to make a difference in my life. I want to make a difference in other people's lives. And I went with just that premise in mind. That was just what I was trying to do. But I didn't have any specific ideas of what that might entail, what I might take to get there. I just said, well, I'm just going to just keep living my life like I do, which is one day at a time, and living in the moment, and not trying to overplan or overmanage every aspect of my life, just to live free and live happy. And I did that. I was able to live that lifestyle until I got to the point where I was trying to market it, something that I wanted to, again, make money from, to be able to sustain a lifestyle that we become accustomed to. And that was hard. It was difficult. I don't want to say a failure, and I don't want to say that it wasn't feasible, or that it wasn't something that I was, dreaming beyond my actual capacity, but it fell apart. And I was like, you know what? I found some chinks in the armor. I found a lot of issues that I hadn't considered that were impacting factors that I never took into consideration. And being human is one of them. I struggle constantly with the concept of ego. What I'm doing, what I'm trying to do, is it a product of my ego? Is it a product of arrogance, hubris, whatever you want to, call it? It's, what makes me think that anything that I can offer has any value to anybody else? Because life is relative to the individual, and this is my life. So really, based on that theory, that philosophy, the only person that any of this would matter to is me. But I strongly suspect that there are other people out there that aren't looking for a guide. They aren't looking for a teacher. They aren't looking for an instructor or a master, someone to tell them what to do. They're in a position where they just don't trust themselves enough to follow their instincts, pursue what it is that they desire. And that's a tricky one, because there's certain things ingrained to us as humans that are just desire, the things we are driven to do: eat, reproduce, sleep. Things we have to do. They're hardwired into the human experience, and there's just really, I don't want to say there's no way around it, because I know that there's always a way around everything, but I'm not at that level. I'm not there. So what, if any, value do I offer anybody else? So I got all these things going. I had the website. I had, I trademarked Sage Gourmand. I launched a coaching business and tried to get people to sign on, and it just didn't really take off. Try and monitor my time here. So the big question for me then is, is this an ego issue? Am I feeling like what I have is worth more than what it really is? And from a spiritual standpoint, how do you try to profit off of benefiting people? I mean, that's always been my struggle, the struggle between materialism and spirituality. I've lived a spiritual life my whole life, and I've gone through a lot of phases where I just didn't have abundance. I living poor. I mean, that in my mind, when I was growing up, and you heard of all these great minds that influenced people on a spiritual level, poverty was almost always hand in hand with that. The rejection of material goods and the pursuit of money. And, you have that mindset, so you're engaging in an endeavor that historically gives you nothing in return. except for maybe notoriety, fame. 100 years after you die, if somebody comes across your material and finds something of value in it. But how does that help me now? So I had changed my mindset. I was like, all right, I want to be spiritual and materialistic at the same time. I want to enjoy the things that life has to offer, and some of those things cost money. You can go outside and you can live a very fulfilling, abundant life, living off the land and living very simple. And I did that. But there's so many other things out there that you would never get to experience if you didn't have money. There's just, you have to have a way to trade. You need something of value to exchange for experiences that you wouldn't normally be able to get. I mean, I would love to go to Europe. I have not gone for a variety of reasons. Financial is probably the biggest one. But in that process of growing, especially in that 9-year timeline where I was making videos and I was making huge strides in my existence, I got in with, I don't know, that's not the right term, got in with, but I started following Joe Vitale, who has a body of work that is extremely spiritual and focused on having a very fulfilled life. And I was like, this guy is doing it. He is doing exactly what I have set out to do, which is live a spiritual life, create a product that, one, generates revenue for myself, but also benefits people. And I co-authored a book with Joe Vitale. I was a contributing author in The Abundance Factor, which, when you boil it all down, was just a marketing, I don't want to say scam, but it's just, it really kind of was. It was a manipulation. I, with everybody else, manipulated the system was there to create the illusion of something else, which also provides value. There was something there that could benefit people, and he profited from that financially, and it gave me another tool in my box to be able to generate profits for myself. Plus, it gave me a little bit of credibility being associated, involved with that, and it's a marketing tool. It all came down to marketing, which he has a very specific method of doing, which is very in your face constantly. And that's one of the things I finally had to just cut off all ties with all of his stuff, because it was just a bombardment every day. And no matter what I want to do in my life, no matter what I have done in my life, I've always had an issue with marketing. Marketing has just always been a scam to me. It's a way to get somebody to buy something that they may or may not want or need to put money in your pocket. And I have a big issue with that, especially in matters that are spiritual or, self-benefiting, something where you're trying to create a better life for yourself. I find it very difficult. There's something in that mindset that if it's spiritual in nature, if it is beneficial to humanity, then it should be free. So how could I structure what I was doing to be successful, to be heard? Because ultimately, that is one of my biggest drives, to be seen and to be heard. On the polar opposite side is also one of my drives, to be anonymous. When I first came up with the idea that I wanted to be a writer and I wanted to create content that was going to affect people way back in my late teens, early 20s, I came up with the pseudonym of Thalison, and there's a whole story behind that, and I'm not going to go into it now. That story is on my Thalison Theories blog, and I've mentioned it in numerous recordings over the years, and at some point I may come back and give an explanation, and I'm always happy to answer if someone specifically asks me the question. But the idea was this veil of anonymity. I wanted to be anonymous. I wanted everybody to know my work and my work to have an impact on the world without anybody putting my face with that. I wanted it to be a secret. And I don't know why. I still to this day have not figured that out, because there's just something about secrecy that it just is connected with all of this. And I don't have a firm grasp on that and an understanding of why understanding humanity and understanding the manipulation of this reality has to be a secret. But there's something there with it. And that's something that we can get into on a later date. Where are we at here? 21 minutes in. So I've been making these recordings for years, or I did make them for years, and I did it just like this. No structure, just no script, whatever comes to my mind, and it just rambles out. So I have a tendency to drift off course because there is no course. I have a tendency to be long-winded and touch on 100 different things and never come to conclusion on anything. So getting going on this next phase of this Sage Gourmand concept, this is the Sage Gourmand OTR. So I have the YouTube channel Jason Witkenack, which has the beginning of all of my videos. I have a stockpile of voice recordings because that's where I started 11 years ago, was making voice recordings just like this, just with no video. I would just ramble on about where I'm at, what I'm doing, what are the conditions I'm facing right now, how am I overcoming them, and how am I striving to create this better life. And so it's documented, it's there. I have a whole shitload of information that shows exactly what I went through and what the results were. Right up into the point where I launched Sage Gourmand as an actual coaching and consulting business. I hired a writing coach to help me write a book, which I did, Mastering Your Illusion, and I have done nothing with it. I finished it several years ago, and there was just a lot of things about my coach's approach to publishing and self-publishing specifically that it didn't fit with me. It didn't fit with what I was trying to do. It didn't fit with my approach to life. So I kind of dropped off on it and I didn't sever those ties. I'm still connected to him via social media. And when I hired him, it was a lifetime arrangement. So I can always go back and get assistance. But the bottom line is I wanted to write a book, and I did. I haven't done anything with it. So it's just sitting there. It's just like one of those things that's it's an investment. It's something that's in the bank that'll pay off later, that whenever the timing is right. And right now the timing just hasn't been right, so it's still there. But anyway, I launched the business, I wrote the book, and I was trying to get into coaching, consulting, and speaking. So according to my writing and speaking coach, he does both. Your book is your speech, and your speech is your book. You write the book to help you have a speech, and then when you're speaking and delivering whatever aspects of your work are pertinent to what your audience is, you've got the hard copy to go along with it. And that all made sense. But I couldn't get it off the ground. I launched it. We sold our house. We took the proceeds from that. I took out a couple personal loans. I had, $40-some thousand in credit that I leveraged to get all this done through 2017, 2018, and into 2019, when I finally just ran out of resources and was extremely frustrated because I wasn't getting the response back that I thought I would get. I thought I had created a very valuable, beneficial product that nobody was interested in. And because of my aversion to marketing and my issues with that, I couldn't go the route that Joe Vitale does, where he's just constantly hitting you with a barrage of this information in hopes that somebody eventually will either wear down and give in and buy it, or just walk away and completely cut it off. There's just a difference in approach. So the last couple years has just been me living my life. When all that came to an end, right at the end of 2019 and the first 6 months of 2020, I was like, I want to make this a better place to live. There's definitely some factors going on in the world that are causing tension, causing discontent, unhappiness, just so many things going on. What can I do to make everything better? And I decided that the best way that I could impact this reality was living my best life. And people say that all the time. They're living their best life, or I'm out living my best life. So anytime you go and you take the time to do something fun, you're living your best life. What does it take to get up every single morning and make the choice to live that best life? That's what I got into. And it started with getting up every morning with a positive outlook, getting up and appreciating what was around me. And that's really the key. You'll find that in pretty much whatever top self-help person is out there putting out content now. Appreciation is the key to everything. Seeing the beauty in the things around you, seeing beauty in your life, that is the key. That's what it takes to keep moving forward and having that good life. But realistically, what does it take to do that? To get up every morning and open the door and say, it is a beautiful day, even if it's pouring down rain, or the wind's blowing, or it's snowing, or you can't go outside. Well, it doesn't make any difference. The point is to appreciate what you have, to appreciate your surroundings. So that was my goal, to use my culinary background and the concepts in Sage Gourmand to live that best life, to get up every day and feel good, to do things that benefit my health and my well-being and my quality of life. So exercising, eating, the way I sleep, the way I rest, how I relax, how I handle stress, all of those things are individual factors in how I live my life and how I create what I still consider an abundant life. And even when everything crashed, we had leveraged all of our credit, everything that we had, and we're sitting there like, we're in a position now where we can't pay any of this back. And it was bad. It was bad. We did seek consultation on bankruptcy. There were so many different factors with that. It didn't pan out, and I've been through bankruptcy twice. This would have been my third time. So I know a little bit about it. I thought I knew a lot about it and thought I had a grasp on what it was going to take. So when it all came there, and I was like, all right, well, that's unfortunate. It wasn't my desired outcome, but that's the path we're going to have to take. I ran into all kinds of roadblocks, things that I never knew before about just all the shit comes together with bankruptcy. It's just, anyway, so it just didn't work out. So now we're in default on all these loans and credit cards, and can't pay our rent. So, I mean, it was a tough time, but I still, in my heart, in my soul, felt I was living an abundant life. I still had everything I need, even though I had an excessive amount of debt that I couldn't pay for. I had a roof over my head. I was able to put food on the table, and it was good food. It was stuff that I made, homemade. We factored processed foods out of our life years ago, and I was still able to live what I considered an abundant life, and I still had an appreciation for it. That was how I was getting past that, and how I was making my life better and the world around me better, by trying to be happy, to make the choice to be happy with what was going on. And that is a very subjective term, happiness. I mean, and I put a lot of thought into it. I mean, and I'm obsessive compulsive, so I get fixated on something and I dwell on it forever. It just keeps going and going and going. And happiness is one of those things, because there's levels of happiness. Is it content? Are you content with what you've got going on? There may be more things you want, but bottom line is you're happy. And I saw a public speaker, it was several years ago, and his whole spiel was call it good. And he had his own visuals and philosophies and metaphors, different things, anecdotes from life, that he focused around that whole concept of call it good. And it to me, I mean, it was a good speech, and it took a portion of my whole Sage Gourmand concept, but it was just a really simplified version of it, and I could see that in my own work, but it was something that I always see, that there's a benefit into seeing the good in what's going on around you, even when it seems like it's terrible, because the more you focus on something, the more you draw that into your life. That's one of the base concepts in The Secret, or any of Joe Vitale's work, and he worked on The Secret. So, I mean, there's just all these different people with this same mindset that are filling that specific niche in this reality of providing insight into what you can do to live a better life, or a happier life. And it's understanding those different levels of happiness and being able to still consider yourself happy, even when things aren't necessarily going what you wanted, the way you wanted. So I'm kind of coming to that point now where I'm so scattered and have no focus on a direction here with what we're talking about, that I just don't even know where to take this. So much like a lot of the recordings that I had in the early days, it's everywhere. And I apologize for that. That is one of my goals in moving forward with this Sage Gourmand OTR version of what I'm doing, is to have more of a structured kind of a topic/show format, where I can make a video, I guess similar to podcasting, or it could be exactly the same as podcasting, depending on how you want to look at it. But to create content and with specific goals and specific details in mind to be discussing, so that it's one, easy to catalog, easy to follow, easy to go back to, And you can pick and choose because, if I'm talking about something during one episode that's not necessarily something you have any interest in, you don't have to fucking watch it. You can skip it and watch something that does. And that's kind of where I've gotten with this, is that this is my life. This is how I live my life. This is the result and the desired outcomes all laid out, and what I'm doing to manage all that. And there's going to be things that I say, that I do, that just don't fit in with your lifestyle. But I think, in theory, that I've got something of value to offer to pretty much anybody on the planet. I don't care where you are, what life you're living. There's certain aspects of what I do and how I do it that I think people will be able to relate to and be able to connect to. And I think some of it is going to be over people's heads, and some of it people are going to be like, that's ignorant. Okay, that's fine. What is my drive? What is my motivation to do that, though? And that is just a drive now to be heard, to be seen. Again, as much as I try to be out of the spotlight, I do want to leave behind a body of work that affects somebody else's life besides my own. Now, I stole that from Rick Reynolds, stand-up comedian. Only the truth is funny, and that's from the early 90s, and it's stuck in my head. There's just like what I'm talking about with myself, there's certain things I've seen in other people's work that have extreme relevance to the vision I have for my life. So I try to absorb as much as I can from as many sources as I can. But I don't really seek those things out. I feel like the things that I need come to me when it's appropriate. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for with this, is that this will find you when the time is right. There's going to be certain things that I talk about, and then it's not going to be applicable to your lifestyle. It's just, I could talk for an hour and not once say anything that has anything to do or has any impact that you have no connection to. But there might be that day where I cover some subject matter that is going to be absolutely 100% on focus for what you've got going on in your life, and you may be able to draw something from that, which is great. That's my intent. Now, I've abandoned the idea of trying to monetize that. I have no desire right at this point to take this type of information, this product that I'm offering, being this video / podcast format program, it's a freebie. And I've struggled with that as well, because the concept of value. If it's free, then it has no value. That's just the mindset. That's how we are as humans. That's how I am. That's how most people are. If you associate the value of something by the dollar amount associated with it. So most people, including myself, disregard anything that's free. So this may not get anywhere. It may not go anywhere, because people may decide that because it's free that it has no value. If it was being given away, then it's being given away for a reason. But for me, it should be free. But there's got to be ways down the road to benefit financially from that. There's got to be things. And that's kind of where I got into the idea of merchandising, things that I can make or have made, or logo that are a reminder of what Sage Gourmand is, without having to charge for the actual content and the message that is intended. So that's kind of my focus, my mindset now, is to start creating the content, and then hopefully, because I am a very creative individual and I do like making things, there's just the merchandising aspect is something to come later, something that I can focus on and use that, because then you're actually buying a hard content physical item that has a value, and it may have an impact on your life as well, because it could be as simple as you coming across something in a video or in a show that moved you, that had an impact, that was life-changing, or at least changing the moment that you were living in. And much like going on vacation and buying souvenirs, the merchandising is something that is physical, that's there, that's a reminder of that moment, something that can trigger or just bring to mind, that concept, especially in the early days of that, because I know for a fact that when I'm trying to make changes in my life, you can make the decision to do that, but you need some kind of constant reinforcement to keep going. So anyway, that's where I'm at. That's what this is, and this was kind of a test run. So I'm trying this with a brand new phone, so brand new camera, brand new settings. Prior to this, I did everything on a GoPro right here in this car, and that worked out well, but there was a lot more of a process to put those videos together. There's so much editing and meshing together that you have to do. It was, hours a day sometimes for me to piece together fragments of videos to be able to put together one video to upload. So I'm trying to streamline that. That's what kind of using the technology that I have available to me now, and finding a way to create content, create a show or a product that is easy to follow. I always use the word digestible, something that, that's easy for people to see and absorb without having to put too much deep thought into it. It's just a way of presenting to trigger things inside of you, to help you figure out what you're doing with your life while I'm doing the same with mine. And this is it. This is, like I said, this is the preface, and this will probably be titled just like that if I decide to keep it, because I need to watch it back and make sure sound quality, video quality, all of those things are up to the level that I would need them to be. And hopefully this is the beginning of a whole new chapter, and hopefully something that I can look back on and take some pride in, and help me figure out my happiness in life and maintain that level of appreciation for the life I have. And I've had a fantastic life. I've had ups and downs, same as anybody. I struggle with despair and depression and anger the same as anybody else, and I have some pretty dramatic ups and downs. I'm coming off of a period where I just was ready to be done, and that's hard for me to say out loud, because I don't want anybody to ever to ever know that. I definitely wouldn't want any of my friends or family to know that I have contemplated ending everything just because I just don't see any reason for it anymore. But it's important that people that don't know me understand that I do struggle with that. I have a really, really bad temper. I've struggled with anger and rage my whole life, and I've gotten so much better at keeping it in check, but I do occasionally slip and lose it. And those are some of the catalysts for some of those huge downturns in my life stem from me losing my temper. And it's difficult to control sometimes, and it's something I have to be mindful of, and it's hopefully something, if you ever deal with that or experience that you might find in my body of work that helps you sort through those issues on your own. So we're at 46 minutes here. So I was shooting for less than an hour, and I had, again, no script, no pre-designed idea of where this was going. I just knew that I wanted something that was not really the introduction, because I wanted the introduction to be more of a formal format, because that's the direction I'm going with this. But I also wanted this loose, free-flowing release of ideas verbally that kind of ties everything that I did before with what I'm getting ready to do. And hopefully by the end of this recording, I've convinced myself that it's something that I want to continue to do, and that there is some kind of value and benefit for me to continue to do it. Because at this point in my life, everything else is just kind of have fallen short. I'm not happy with my job. I do not like the company that I work for. I do not like most of the people that I work for. And I have to be careful when I say don't like. It's not conducive to what I'm doing anymore. And I've been able to manipulate it to be useful and beneficial to me in a manner that suits my needs. But in the back of my mind, I've just been feeling like I'm just getting by. I'm just making do. But there's things that I've done. There's tricks that I've used. There's manipulations that I've embraced that changed the structure of my work existence. So as much as I am dissatisfied with it, I've definitely been able to make it tolerable now for going on 2 years, this was supposed to be a temporary thing. And there's recordings that cover some of that stuff, and I'll probably cover it again, the history of that. So what you're going to get from me in the future is a lot of stories about my life and anecdotes about situations that I've had and what I did in those situations and the results, and then my aspirations and where I'm shooting to be in the future for myself, and the history of my aspirations and the things that I engaged in, that I set off to try to accomplish, and they didn't always work out the way I initially had hoped, but I can honestly say most of them have turned out better than expected. So there is that level of accomplishment. I have set out to do certain things and reach certain goals, and it's been sometimes different than what I had, but I follow the path. When things present themselves to me, I just follow and try to keep a positive mindset on what it is I want to do and the life I want to live. And I always get there. I've been 100% successful in creating a lifestyle that makes me happy. And even with the anger issues and the downturns in my emotional state, and those are more associated with something in my cycle that is a disconnect. And anytime I reach a period in my life where I feel disconnected from everything, and it happens. I mean, it's inevitable. It's cyclical. It's part of the human experience. You get to... I get distracted when people are walking by, but anyway, lost my whole train of thought, and it's not really that important. But anyway, bottom line is I live an abundant, happy life, and I'm hoping to encourage and inspire people to do the same thing. And hopefully there's some benefit in all of this for everyone. And that's it.